Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cracking open some of that essential psychological knowledge that for too long has felt kind of gatekept.
Hmm.
The kind of core insights that inform resilience, help you navigate stress, and frankly, just make being a human a little less confusing.
And our depth dive today centers on the work of psychologist Dr. Julie Smith. Her insights were, well, they were originally developed in her therapy room and then shared through these really popular short form
Right.
videos.
And now they're consolidated into this powerful guide.
Exactly.
And the entire driving philosophy behind her work is, I think, encapsulated by a quote from a patient who, upon realizing these fundamental truths, just looked at Dr. Smith and asked, "Why has nobody told me this before?"
Right.
That is the core frustration we're tackling today.
Yeah.
Why are these crucial emotional toolkits treated like a secret?
It really speaks volumes, doesn't it? I mean, about the role of a modern psychologist. The author realized that so much of the work wasn't just, therapy in the classic
It
sense.
was more than that.
It was about being an educator, translating scientific insights and skills into practical language. And our mission today is to integrate these concepts, not just as coping strategies for when things go wrong,
No, but as everyday skills.
as fundamental everyday life skills. They're an essential part of the curriculum of being well informed, valuable, whether you're having a great week or, a terrible one.
Absolutely. Think of it as preventative maintenance for the mind. So let's jump right in. Let's start with maybe the most reassuring piece of knowledge, the normalcy of emotional fluctuation.
That's the foundation. Everyone has low days. Everyone. It's a baseline human
It
experience.
really is.
The significant difference between people who struggle chronically and those who feel resilient often just lies in the frequency and severity of that low mood,
And how they respond to it.
and crucially, how they respond to it.
And the major pitfall Dr. Smith highlights is this tendency we have to mask that struggle internally. We're constantly comparing our own messy reality to this, highly curated external image of others who seem always happy.
Oh, that comparison is so destructive because it leads to this dangerous fixed belief that happiness is a personality type.
You either have the happy gene or you don't.
Exactly. And if you believe your capacity for happiness is fixed, why would you invest any effort in changing your state? You just hide your struggle and suffer in silence.
Which is where the power of a good analogy comes
Mhm.
in. The book uses this fantastic parallel that shifts the whole perspective, the body temperature analogy.
Right. I love this one. Think about your body temperature. If you feel too hot or too cold, you don't immediately think, oh no, I have a rare terminal disease.
No, of course not.
It's usually a signal from your internal or your external environment. Maybe you're dehydrated, maybe you haven't eaten, or you're just wearing the wrong clothes.
Right. It's a data point.
It's a data point. Your temperature is influenced by dozens of factors we can actively assess and influence.
So it's not static, it's dynamic. It's constantly responding to inputs.
And mood is exactly the same. It's influenced by sleep quality, diet, caffeine intake, stress, our environment, even simple things like sunlight.
Okay.
And when we recognize mood as a sensation that is influenced by these inputs, we reclaim our power. It reminds us that low mood is something we experience, not something that fundamentally defines who we are.
And that is the necessary first step to taking your emotional health into your own hands.
It really is.
But the reality of feelings goes even deeper than just external factors like sleep, right? I
Yeah.
mean, what's truly fascinating is how the brain actually constructs these feelings. It's not just abstract.
Not at all. It's incredibly physical. Your brain is this masterful synthesizer, constantly working to make the most informed, best guess about your current state.
A best guess. I like that.
It takes clues from your body, your heart rate, hormonal shifts, tension in your muscles, and it combines that with what your senses are reporting, your immediate actions, and, memories of similar past experiences.
So it's pulling from all these different sources.
It pieces all these strands together, and the result is the sensation we recognize as a mood or an emotion. And then the interpretation we put on that feeling sends feedback, which starts the whole cycle over again.
That feedback loop is where the trouble starts. I mean, we all know the cliche
Yeah.
thoughts influence feelings. But if the brain is building feelings from physical inputs, what about that two-way road?
The two-way road is crucial. Feelings absolutely influence the types of thoughts that appear.
Ah,
When you are operating from a low mood, your mind is just highly susceptible to negative and self critical patterns. This leads to that really challenging behavioral feedback loop.
The natural urge when we feel low is to withdraw, right? To
Mm.
stop engaging. We cancel plans, we stop exercising, skip those hobbies we normally enjoy.
Exactly. And this disengagement is the self sabotaging trap. You stop doing the things that provide pleasure and mastery, which just reinforces the initial low mood.
So it confirms the negative feedback.
It confirms it, the spiral continues downward.
Let's um let's describe that downward spiral in a bit more detail because I think recognizing it early is so key.
Yeah.
It can start really innocuously, right? Maybe just an external event like a minor slight influences your internal state.
Yes. That minor slight causes the mood to drop. That drop then triggers the urge to withdraw to conserve energy.
Okay.
This leads to the formation of these negative beliefs. What is the point of trying? Or nothing ever works out for me.
And then you act on
You then
those.
act on those beliefs by doing nothing. And because you've done nothing, nothing changes, which just reinforces that feeling of hopelessness.
That urgency of intervention is so critical. If you wait until you hit that feel hopeless stage, the emotional inertia is just massive.
It is exponentially harder to break out then. This is why Dr. Smith uses the wicker basket analogy.
Okay.
When you're in the moment of emotional distress, you don't experience your thoughts, actions, and emotions as separate things. They're all tightly interwoven like the strands of wicker.
Inseparable.
They're inseparable components of a single experience.
So we need a tool to essentially unbraid that basket,
Mm.
to gain some control by seeing the individual components for what they are.
We do. And this brings us to the core toolkit used in cognitive behavioral therapy, the cross sectional formulation.
Okay.
This tool encourages us to break down any challenging experience, a moment of intense anxiety, an angry outburst, a deep bout of self criticism, into four specific non judgmental components.
And what are those for?
They are thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, and behavior or actions. This structure forces you to analyze the entire system at once.
Let's try to apply this to a common, really relatable situation for our listeners. Maybe receiving tough but necessary feedback at work or school. Walk us through how those four components might manifest there.
Great example. The moment you read that critical feedback, let's look at the components. First, thoughts.
Okay.
They might immediately spiral. I am not good enough. I am going to get fired, or this proves everyone else is better than me.
Right. The catastrophe.
Then emotions, shame, anxiety, a sudden drop in mood. Then third, physical sensations. Maybe a clenched jaw, a knot in the stomach, or a sudden burst of adrenaline that makes your heart race.
And finally, the behavior.
And finally, behavior actions. What do you do immediately after reading it? Maybe you snap your laptop shut, maybe you cancel a team meeting you were supposed to lead, or perhaps you just immediately reach for social media to distract yourself.
And the power of laying it out like that is seeing how the action, snapping the laptop shut and withdrawing, actually validates that negative thought.
Exactly.
I must be a failure, so I should hide.
Precisely. You see the reinforcement loop in action? The emotional and physical response drives the behavior, which then confirms the initial negative thought.
So, for the listener who wants to start using this toolkit right away,
Mm.
what are those reflection questions we need to be asking ourselves about an event that's already passed?
The questions are simple, but they're powerful. Ask yourself, what were my specific thoughts at the time? Where did I feel that in my body, the physical manifestation? What urges appeared? Did I want to flee, fight, or freeze? And did I act on them?
In the final one.
And finally, how did that action or inaction influence my emotions moving forward?
And that practice, that sort of postmortem analysis, is how you gradually build the skill of noticing those connections in the moment.
That's the first window for change.
That's the goal.
It is the ultimate goal, building that awareness so you can spot where the cycle is most vulnerable to intervention.
Now, we need to confront the things that actively sabotage that awareness. Because when our mood drops, we are so susceptible to certain psychological traps that feel good immediately, but
Yeah, but destroy us later.
exactly.
The first major pitfall is the cycle of instant relief. When a low mood creates emotional discomfort, we instinctively seek to numb or distract ourselves as quickly as possible.
So that's where we reach for the quick fixes.
This is where we reach for the quick fixes: alcohol, excessive TV binging, or just endless scrolling through social media.
And the reason this trap is so potent is
Mhm.
because, unlike a lot of other behaviors, instant relief, it actually works.
It works in the short
It
term,
gives us that immediate distraction or numbing effect we're craving.
but the danger is in the rebound. When the distraction ends or the substance wears off, the feelings come back, and often they're more intense than before.
Right.
This perpetuates the cycle because your brain learns that this instant passive relief is the primary coping mechanism, even though the long term cost is so high: loss of progress, loss of time, and heightened emotional vulnerability.
Okay, so that's the behavioral side. Let's pivot to the internal sabotage system,
Mm.
thought biases. These are normal cognitive shortcuts, but when our mood is low, they get amplified into these destructive patterns.
The first big one is the mental filter. When you're feeling negative, your brain acts like a sieve, and it's specifically looking for information to confirm your existing negative beliefs. You unconsciously just discount any positive evidence.
Give us that social media example again, but let's really expand on the emotional payoff of that.
Okay, so imagine you post a new project online. You get 20 positive, highly validating comments and one single throwaway negative remark.
Hmm.
If you are operating under a mental filter, you actively skim past those 20 positive comments. You don't even register them. Your attention locks intensely onto that single negative comment.
And that focus.
That focus confirms your initial feeling of inadequacy, making you feel validated in your distress. You think, see, I knew I was a failure.
We're literally manufacturing evidence to support your own misery.
Exactly. Then we have emotional reasoning.
Okay.
This is the internal logic that dictates, I feel it, therefore it must be true.
But practically speaking, I mean, sometimes our feelings are signaling danger. How do we differentiate?
And that's the challenge. Emotional reasoning elevates a feeling to the status of objective fact, and it overrides all other evidence. For example, if you feel exhausted and overwhelmed after a challenging presentation, the intense feeling of deflation leads you to conclude, I must have failed miserably.
Even if your boss praised you.
Regardless of the fact that your boss just praised you, the feeling becomes irrefutable evidence.
Wow, that is a constant mental battle. And what about overgeneralization?
Overgeneralization takes one singular event and uses it to predict all future outcomes. So, spilling your coffee doesn't just mean you spilled your coffee.
It means the entire day is ruined.
It means the entire day is ruined. Or arguing with a loved one doesn't just mean a relationship conflict. It means I will be alone forever. It turns one small incident into this hopeless global narrative.
And we often apply these rigid mental rules not just to ourselves, but to others, which creates what she calls egocentric thinking.
Yes. This is where we apply our own personal and often inflexible rules of behavior to everyone else. If your personal rule is that you must always arrive 10 minutes early, you judge someone who is 5 minutes late as uncaring or disrespectful. This narrow focus leads to constant tension and disappointment, not because the other person is bad.
But because they violated your private rule book, which
Exactly.
leads directly into the tyranny of musts and shoulds.
These are the relentless, often unrealistic expectations tied to perfectionism. I must always look perfect. I should never take time off. I should never do less than my absolute best.
And if you set yourself up with those rules,
Any minor mistake is experienced as a catastrophic failure because there is zero margin for error.
and that ties to all or nothing thinking, the final bias.
Correct. All or nothing thinking sees the world only in extremes: total success or complete failure. There's no middle ground, no gray area for learning or for improvement.
And life is inherently gray.
Because life is inherently gray, this polarization significantly increases the intensity of your emotional reactions to mistakes. Any minor setback feels like the whole game is over.
So we've identified these biases, which are clearly making us miserable. We can't simply flip a switch and stop thinking this way. So, what is the actionable solution?
Well, the power, as Dr. Smith emphasizes, is not in stopping the thoughts. It's in gaining critical distance from them, in seeing them for what they are: biased possibilities, not absolute truth.
Okay, so we need techniques to separate ourselves from the content of our minds.
We do. And the source gives us three specific, highly practical techniques for gaining that distance.
Let's break them down.
First, journaling. Just writing down those specific, highly charged thoughts and then checking them against the list of biases we just discussed.
So you can label them.
It helps you label them. You can ask, is this overgeneralization? Is this a must or a should? And just labeling it reduces its power.
The second technique is linguistic distancing. It's subtle, but wow, it's incredibly effective.
It is. It's about separating yourself from the thought using your language. So if the thought is, I am a failure, you practice saying, I am having the thought that I am a failure.
Or I'm noticing.
Or, I am noticing these sensations of self criticism. You make the thought an object you are observing, not an identity you inhabit.
That shifts the thought from a statement of fact to just a fleeting observation.
Exactly. And third, mindfulness practice. This
Yes,
is establishing a set time, even 5 minutes, to deliberately observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
that bird's eye view.
It provides that critical bird's eye view of your own mind, and it weakens the grip of the biases because you are actively choosing not to engage with them.
This entire discussion really loops back to that idea we introduced at the very beginning that working on mental health is fundamentally preventative.
It is the ultimate investment in resilience. Think of it like physical health.
Mhm.
When you exercise and eat well, your body is better able to fight infection and heal from injuries.
Sure.
Working on self awareness and establishing these coping skills when you are well is like paying a mortgage rather than rent. It's an investment in your future ability to fight emotional infection and heal from life's inevitable hardships.
It truly is daily nutrition for the mind, not just emergency surgery.
And that emphasis on practice is why this material resonates so strongly. I mean, the success of the initial book led to updates because readers wanted even more structure.
They wanted more.
The author added new chapters based directly on user feedback for those who felt they needed a more guided approach. Things like a specific panic attack guide and an anxiety action plan.
So, the core message we should take away is that learning and awareness are just the first step.
Absolutely.
Change requires conscious effort, courage, and persistence.
Yes. You now have a deeper understanding of the system, the body temperature analogy, the vicious cycle, the cross sectional formulation, and that list of cognitive traps.
You have the toolkit.
You have the toolkit. And we'd encourage you to review it and pick just one skill. Maybe it's practicing linguistic distancing for 2 minutes a day, or maybe it's mapping out one challenging moment using the 4 components.
Don't try to master the whole toolbox at once.
Just start building. Invest in that resilience starting now.
A perfectly actionable place to end our deep dive. Thank you for helping us unlock this essential knowledge.
My pleasure.
Go forth and observe those thoughts.